I got roofied by my ex and she posted the sex tape to Pornhub. I was underage at the time. Today in B-Town Reddit stories. Men who have been sexually assaulted by women, what's your story? Friend's mother. She was 50-something, we were teenagers. She assaulted at least 4 of us. This was the cool house where you could drink, hang out, etc. For my part, she once pointed a rifle, that I assumed was loaded, at me and another kid and told us to wash her dishes. Part way through she reached into my pants and started stroking me. Her husband actually walked into the room during this, and when I looked to him he said, "Don't look at me, she's got the gun." I know other friends got a lot worse than I did. She also assaulted the girl who would later be my first adult partner with a vibrator. Her daughter's BF lived with them for a year and I'm pretty sure he got the worst of it. When I was in my early 20s she died of a heart attack and that guy brought a 6-pack to my house to tell me. Only time I've toasted to someone's death. Years back my babysitter took me to the bathroom. As I remember she sat on the toilet and used my hand to touch/rub herself. I was 5-ish at the time, she was a teenage family friend. It only happened once, never became clear what happened till years later. Reply. I had a similar experience. I don't know if it counts as assault, because I probably could have avoided it if I'd just been smarter or told someone, or stuck up for myself better. When I was 4, my sister, who's around 7 years older, and I used to share a bed. One night, I think my hand grazed against her or something as I was turning, and the next day, she threatened to tell my parents that I had touched her unless I did exactly as she said. From that point on, a couple nights a week, she made me touch her and told me what to do. I was scared and didn't want my parents, who were going through a contentious divorce, to be mad at me, so I did what she said. All I knew was that it made me feel funny. It continued for a couple weeks, and if I'm remembering correctly, it happened sporadically once or twice a year or 2 later. I never told anyone. Growing up, I was really confused about how I felt about my sister. It wasn't until like 3 years ago, my sophomore year of college, that the full realization of what she had done to me hit me. I don't know why it took until then to realize it, honestly, but I think one day I just woke up and realized that what happened to me actually happened. I can't explain it to you if I tried, but suddenly, I understood a little more about what happened, and I was able to verbalize it for the first time and put it into words. I told a friend of mine at the time, who comforted me and helped me a lot at the time, by just being there to listen to me and empathize with me. She was always around to listen as I processed these feelings, emotions, and realizations, years later. That year, my sister had her wedding. I was one of her fiancé's groomsmen. I couldn't choose to not attend the wedding, and I couldn't turn the groomsman offer down, because it would make my family look bad if I did. I'm part Indian American, and in Indian culture, you sometimes have to do things because it makes the family look bad if you don't. My mom and dad asked me not to turn down my future brother-in-law's request to be one of his groomsmen, and they really wanted me to be at the wedding, so I agreed. At the wedding, the day of the reception, Indian weddings are typically days long. As the brother of the bride, I was expected to give a speech extolling the virtues of my sister and her new husband. Again, I couldn't refuse, it would make the family look bad. I stood up in a room of hundreds of people, I put a smile on my face, and I praised the girl who had, unbeknownst to me until a few months prior of that year, effectively been one of the reasons I struggled with my emotions, mental health, and identity for so long. I was only able to make it through the wedding because the bartenders at each event knew something was wrong, and they made sure to have a drink in my hand at all times. I just focused on having as much of a good time as possible, and danced and drank away my problems. One of the days I was there, my cousin also got drunk and told me that she had also been assaulted by our grandfather, and she felt like she could tell me because I had told her about what my sister did to me a few weeks prior. There's an apocryphal story I once heard about a man who falls down a hole and starts calling for help. His friend hears his calls, peers down the hole, and quickly jumps in too. The first man is bewildered and says, "Why did you do that? Now we're both stuck down here." The friend replies, "I know, but I've been down here before, and I know the way out." At that moment, when my cousin was crying on my shoulder and we were looking out over the balcony, I wished I could be the friend for her who could show her the way out of the hole we had both found ourselves in. At one point during the wedding, when we were all getting ready for the day's ceremonies, my mother was spending some time with me. fixing my hair or something, because she hadn't seen me in a few months, and my sister started hyperventilating and crying, saying that my mother prefers me to her because my name goes to an Ivy, and that even during my wedding, my mother pays more attention to my name than she does to my sister. I comforted her, told her that my mom would like her more than she likes me because my sister is a doctor, I'm not, and my family strongly prefers doctors. Internally, I was just shocked, and I left the room shortly afterward. I then got angry at myself for comforting the person whom I should hate with every fiber of my being. When friends talk about when we each had our first kiss, or when we lost our virginities, I can say that I lost my virginity in college, but I realized once during one of those conversations that my first kiss was at 4, and it wasn't consensual. So the first kiss I tell people about when they ask is actually my second kiss. Small things like this sometimes make me realize how strange my upbringing was. I try not to talk to my sister. My mother noticed this and lamented that my sister and I aren't as close as we used to be, and how she wants us to be there for each other and support each other. It took all my willpower not to cry. I just told her I don't like my sister. She kept pressing the issue, and over the next few months would periodically ask me why I didn't like my sister, why couldn't we just get along, until one day I broke down and finally told her what happened. Her first response was to ask me specific questions about what happened, as if she didn't believe me. It took me a few minutes before I realized that she, in fact, didn't. By the time I managed to convince her that it did happen, that I'm not making it up, she then said that it had been so many years already, why couldn't I just forget about it and patch things up with my sister? Sometimes I think about all of these things and feel sad, because I often think that I would have been a better off and more well-adjusted person if my sister hadn't done what she did to me. I think I would be happier than I currently am. I think I would have maybe flourished more than I have so far. But I won't ever know, because I can't go back in time and see what I would have been like without my sister doing what she did to me. I wish I could. Years ago I went to a girl I was intimate previously house, got trashed, passed out, woke up to her ridding me without protection. When I freaked out she told me, well, you were passed out and I was horny, like it was fine to do that. For years later people were defending her. I still see her to this day and I'm always reminded of the time she sexual abused me, but no one cares or thinks it's sexual abuse. Such a double standard for men. Not as invasive as others here. Throughout school from elementary through high school, girls would play a prank on boys by stealing as much of their clothes as they could. They would literally gang up on one boy, hold him down and try to strip him to his boxers, running in all directions. You try to fight back? You're in trouble because boys don't hit girls. Report them to the office? Man up. They're just playing. It wasn't traumatizing, but the double standard was infuriating. Some guys just started swinging and damn the consequences. One time a hall monitor tried to take me to the office after I ran into the girls' bathroom for my pants. I just flipped him off and went running after my shirt. When I was a freshman in college, a girl who was friends with my roommate's girlfriend put a half Xanax bar in my drink. I woke up the next morning to her naked in my bed with no recollection of the past 12 hours. I'd like to think my D wouldn't have been able to work in that state, but she definitely gave it her best effort. She majored in theology and is now a professor at a Catholic university. My friends gave me shit for the rest of the year. I brushed it off, but to this day I feel nervous around women. I wish I could have done something back then. It still haunts me. In the late 90s I had a girl try to sexual abuse me. When I tried to report it, the police actually laughed at me and didn't file a report. It's hard for men because if men fight back and the girl gets injured in any way, the police will never believe the man. He will probably go to jail for assault. Thank you for listening to another B-Town Reddit Stories episode. Hit the subscribe button and check out our channel for more stories. Let us know your opinion about this topic in the comments.